sounds familiar? Well, listen to this next story about a very famous lion who made a sudden appearance in the Arizona wilderness, as told by Jack San Felice.
Well, the story goes like this. The story is that in 1927, MGM consolidated into Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. And Louis B. Mayer, was pulling off a publicity stunt. They were talking about Lindbergh. All these flyers are now, they got these planes that go long distances. So there were big publicity stories about airplanes and whatnot. So Louis B. Mayer comes up with this idea. Why don't he send his pet lion, Leo, which name was really Jackie, but why not name him after himself in the story? After all, it is the movies. Leo, okay?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it could be. Anyhow, so he gets this pilot who was, by the way, at the time in competition to be the first pilot to fly nonstop to Europe from America. But he lost out to Lindbergh. The same plane was purchased to fly this lion. Now wait a minute. We're in Arizona here. This is not a mountain lion, a 150-pound mountain lion. This is a 400-pound full-grown African lion, okay? With a roar, that can shake a building down almost. Okay, so they're going to send Leo on a cross-country trip as a publicity stunt for new movies for MGM. And so here's the story. They get the plane, they build a cage to hold Leo in it, and the cage is, at the time of bank robberies and things, they were making glass, like bulletproof glass. So they got glass, they made a metal and a glass cage with a door to hold Leo in it. And they get mechanics and they get engineers to figure out how we're going to put the lion in the cage on a plane, okay, and keep him there and keep him alive for this trip. They figured they could have flown in one day or 2 days at the most to get gas. Well, we're ready to go. The pilot waves goodbye to his friends. Louis Mayer waves goodbye to Leo, who was dubbed Leo the Lion because that L. So they start on their journey. Well, they're having, he's coming out, they wouldn't let him fly out of where he wanted to fly out of. And this is an interesting story because the animal rights group did not want an animal flying cross country, thought it would be torture for him to do that. And so they argued, and finally he flew off of a military base, and he come to Arizona, and he gassed up the airplane. Looked like it was taking a lot of gas, so he has a full tank, and it's, I think, around Tucson, it could be, or even Yuma. And as he's flying, he's having trouble getting altitude. And when he's coming towards the Superstition Mountains, the downdrafts apparently are not allowing him at the altitude to go over the mountains. He sees the four peaks at 7,000 some feet to his left. He sees the Superstition Mountains at 5,000 some feet. And he sees the gap in between the mountains. And what he says, he says there's no place that I can go to land out here. This is all wilderness and desert. So he flies between the four peaks and the Superstition Mountains. He had hoped to fly over the Superstitions and then cut a bead left where he could then go over New Mexico and whatnot and toward the East Coast. Well, he's losing altitude, and he's losing more and more altitude. He can't let the gas out without perhaps getting gas on the lion. The wind's terrible. So he just leaves the amount of gas he gets. He tries his best. And he can't do it. He can't get the altitude. He can't do it. He's going to have to set it down. He's going to have to land. He can't find, it's all wooded area. So he says, I'm going to lay it down. Now, he was a stunt pilot, and he was a long-distance pilot, so he knew really how to fly. And so he's over this wooded area in tall trees and big trees, and he decides he's going to set it down in the trees, and he lets it go until we just about, he shut the gas off, just about going and sputtering, and he sees these trees, and he just sets it down. The airplane is wrecked. He's alive. Leo's alive. He said, now I just got to find a road, walk to a place, and we'll get Leo out of here. He said, well, there's cows. I saw cows coming in here. Cows always go home afterwards, after they're out feeding. They go home. There's a saying, when the cows come home. Well, anyhow, the cows in the mountains don't go home. Cows out in the desert, they go to the water holes. So, previous to this, he had given Leo some water and some food, and he sets out. He wanders around following them cows for 3 days in the mountains for 3 days. And finally, he sees he can tell the difference between a cow print now and a horse print. So now he finds some horse prints, and he follows these up over a hill, and he sees an old shack up there. And when he gets there, there's some cowboys there. And he says to the cowboys, he said, I've been following these cows. They never want to go home. And so the cowboys know he's just a city slicker, so to speak. He don't know anything about mountain cattle. And so they're laughing. And when he finally get done laughing at them, he says, look, I need to get to a phone. I got a lion back there that's in the airplane, want to get him off. And they said, well, they get him on a horse, and he has to go 25 miles by horseback. I believe this is the story. It could be by an old farm truck, but I don't believe it. There's no roads from there. Anyhow, he goes down and he finds a place where there's a telephone. And that's the next day. So they've been missing 4 or 5 days now. He calls, operator, give me long distance. Hollywood, California, Louis B. Mayer. Finally gets hooked up with 10,000 secretaries after trying to go through them. And he talks to Louis B. Mayer. He said, Mr. Mayer, he said, I'm sorry, we had an accident. In the meantime, the papers all over the country are looking for Leo. Where's Leo? Where's Leo? Where's Leo the lion? Where's Leo? No Leo. He hasn't been found yet. You know how papers go. They have the morning edition, night edition, on and on. So, no Leo. So he said, and he finally connects with Louis B. Mayer. The first thing Mayer said was, how's Leo? Not, how's the plane? How are you? What's happening? Where are you? He just says, how's Leo? He don't know where he is. He don't know if he's in Kansas or whatever. Finally, he calms Mayer down and he tells him, look, we're in the mountains right outside of Phoenix, we're on our way to New Mexico. He said, I need help. And he says, I got to get a truck and to get Leo out of there. He's still in a cage. The cage is one piece. He said, Leo's okay. So he gets a truck. He hires a truck. He gets some cowboys. He gets some cowboys to go back to Hellsgate.
Okay, so why is it called Hellsgate?
Well, it's a hell of a way to get in, a hell of a way to get out, I guess. And so they go up there with the truck, farm truck, and go through the mountains. There's got to be a truck and go through the mountains on a trail. And so they get up there, and they are still about half a mile from the lion or more. Well, about a mile and a half from where Leo was still in the trees in his cage, the Mexican workers that he had brought with him think they're going to get a mountain lion, 150-pound pet mountain lion. They know it's a pet.
I bet those cowboys were surprised when they came across an African lion.
They didn't realize that it was a 400-pound African lion. Huge, huge mane. They had never seen one. Movies were very few and far between at that time. So anyhow, they go back and they get to where the lion is and they get cowboys. Now the guy that drove the truck was Boyd Hughes' uncle. His name was Martin, Sam Martin, drove the truck. And Boyd Hughes provided some of the photographs to me. They get up there and sure enough, Leo is in the tree. But they can't take the cage down with Leo in it. That's 400 pounds plus 400 pounds. So they get a block and tackle rigged up, and then the cowboy said, if it lives, we can rope it. And so let's get in there, and they open the gate, and they put a rope on Leo, and they get him to come down out of the tree, then they rope him from behind his legs, and they got him all trussed up, okay? And now they had a country doctor with them too, and he brought some stuff and he treated. Leo was fine, except he had blowflies, where he got banged up and he had scabs. Well, it's a good thing the blowflies got to him because it kept him from getting an infection. So they put some turpentine and tar, country doctor, turpentine and tar, fix any wound, doctor him up, and now they got, how are we going to get him down the mountain to the truck? Well, they cut down a tree, and the tree's about this big around, and then it had some big fork where it went to a fork and two big limbs. They cut that, and they made that a sled. And so what they did was they put rope around. Now they got Leo, and he's all trussed up. How are they going to get him back in the cage? Well, here's how they're going to get it. Here's how they got him back in the cage. They opened the cage. They hooked Leo up by the front. They drag him over to the front of the cage, undo the ropes for him, and they cut a way for the ropes to go out the back, which would be actually the front of the cage, and they pull Leo right in there, and he's in the cage. They slam it there. Leo's good. He's on the sled, and they drive the sled on the truck all the way down to the local place where they can get a better vehicle, and they go on down. They drive down to Phoenix, to the only airport there, in Phoenix Airport, and then Louis B. Mayer sent a plane, special plane, cargo plane, to pick up Leo and the pilot and the cage. So they're going to then do a movie clip about this.
Well, it's Leo the lion. Of course they can't pass up some publicity.
And it's sure enough, as soon as they get Leo back to Hollywood, their story is found. All the California, Leo found safe in cage, in mountains, in treacherous mountains of Arizona. I mean, it was treacherous, mysterious mountains of Arizona. Cowboys find him. The whole story goes, you know. He gets his cameraman up, and then he said, look, we are going to film him to be our mascot of the movies. And MGM's mascot today is still Leo the lion. Was the first one. His real name was Jackie, and he was tame. And then he goes on all of the products, and then for every TV show you'll ever see or movie that's MGM, you will see the lion roar. But there were several different Jackies that they've had over the years. A lion's not going to live 100 years.
All right, so once they got him back to Hollywood, to LA there, did they start the publicity tour all over again?
First, Leo was famous now. Mayer got all the publicity he could have ever wanted. The crash was great because all the newspapers across the country, 120 newspapers, major papers were carrying the story. The mystery of what happened to Leo. Where is Leo? Every day, every hour, talking about it. But when he gets him back in there, they groom him up, clean him up, and they shoot the face at the mascot, and then he wants to shoot photos with some of the actresses and actors in the movie and Leo's trainer in a more human mode that shows that Leo was a tame African lion. And they got one of them that's somebody sticking their head inside Leo's mouth. And there's one girl and this really tells the story of fear. There's this, she must have been somebody's girlfriend in the movie business, because they have her all dolled up, and she's a good-looking woman. She's sitting on a bench, and right next to the bench is Leo the lion, and she's got that look of fear on her face. She is deathly afraid. This ain't no mountain lion. This ain't no kitty cat. That's a 400-pound African lion, and that's the story of Leo the lion.
Wreckage of the plane was out there for many years, and to commemorate Leo the lion crash landing in that area, there is now a mountain called Leo Mountain. Join us next time for another mystery of the Superstition Mountains.